Hello. Today I'm going to do an intuitive reading to start both the intuitive and the creative process for mandala number 11. This is the 11th universal law in a series of 12, and it is called the law of rhythm. So the only thing I know about it is the brief introduction I read online. It is that the law of rhythm states that everything vibrates and moves to a certain rhythm. So it's like a pendulum. And this rhythm establishes the cycles, the seasons, the patterns, and the stages of development for everything in the world. And each cycle is a reflection of the regularity of God's universe. To master each rhythm, you must rise above any negative part of the cycle. So that is the introduction that I've read. And right now I'm going to start with my Spirit Calling card reading. And this will last just a couple minutes, and then I'll go straight into the visions. And this is how my guides, my teachers, my divine helpers communicate to me about whatever it is that I'm asking for help in understanding or for help in my life. And through this mini movie, I will pull all the symbolism together to work on this next painting. So as I shuffle the cards, I'm going to call in my guides. Dear God and guiding spirits, angels of light and love, guide me on my path to my highest good. Help guide all those who will witness, read, listen to, and work with my painting with the mandala to help understand the law of rhythm. In this reading, may we better understand this universal law. So I'm going to pull 5 cards with my left hand. That's the hand of my subconscious. And this starts the reading. Sometimes it's a message to help me with the reading itself, and sometimes it's directly related to the law. And the 5 cards are connect, contemplate, clarity, depth, and reflect. Contemplate by connecting deeply and reflecting on the clarity. So I'm getting that this is basically, again, just to help me in my process, to remind me to let go, to trust, and to work with my visions at a very deep level. So contemplate by connecting deeply and reflecting on the clarity that I receive. All right, and the visions have started. We've got an entire row of gingerbread cookies. These mini movies or visions or guided visual journeys I get are often very much like Walt Disney Pixar movies, and they go all over the place. Very entertaining. So we've got these little gingerbread cookies in the shape of people, but they're tick-tocking. Oh, so they're moving back and forth. They're rocking back and forth, all in a row. And I'm hearing the tick-tock, which brings me right into a grandfather clock. And there's this pendulum, whatever it's called, the swinging arm at the bottom of a grandfather clock. And on it is a gingerbread person swinging back and forth, just sort of holding on as the pendulum is swinging back and forth. It's got a fixated grin on its face, made out of icing, so the expression isn't changing. But the time, I can see the hours and the hands on the clock changing very quickly as beautiful. And the scenery behind the clock, so the clock is actually standing in nature. I'm seeing behind it, the nature behind it changing seasons. So it's gone through all 4 seasons and going back through them at a very quick pace. I'm also seeing a roller coaster, and the gingerbread cookies are there again, going up and down, but now there's also real people, children laughing, going through that whole cycle of fear and excitement. Almost, terror and the excitement, the anticipation, and swinging down, and then going back up, and then getting off, and some feeling sick, some feeling like, let's do it again. But behind that, there's a big surface of water. I would almost say it's the ocean, but it's so calm it can't be. It's almost glass-like, as in super, super calm. And that calmness is washing over my body. There's an island in the middle of it. And there's, I would say, a monk sitting cross-legged in meditation. In a state of utter peace. I'm almost seeing above him, like if it was medical machines that were measuring his brain waves. Very, very calm. I was going to say there's a grandfather clock above him, but it's a metronome. A metronome, so I can hear the tick-tock. But what is swinging above his head is simply a pendulum, like I used to make decisions or to connect to the yes and no's in my body and my higher self. Nothing is actually holding the pendulum, it's just swinging above him. But with that image of the brainwaves being at a very calm, so it's almost like equanimity. On this island with this one tree, it's a palm tree. The kind of deserted island you would think about in stories, after a shipwreck. And having said that, I'm seeing now that around that, like the peaceful water is a circle around the island, but then there's all this turbulence. I can see humongous waves, sort of like the perfect storm, but that's only in one quadrant. And then you're going into the other, and you've got the beach and the children playing and all that, but you've also got the shark in the water, the Jaws sort of scene. And then you've got what looks very much like here in Newfoundland. You've got the fishing boats. You've got, but it's going through history here. So from modern to history, I'm seeing the change of time in terms of the fishermen and the people that used to come here just to fish and then go back to their countries. So I'm seeing the movement of boats, let's say from Ireland and England back and forth to Newfoundland and back. And then I'm seeing today the fishing trawlers, the more modern ships. And in another quadrant, I'm seeing a spiral. What is it? Oh my. Oh yes, it's all the garbage in the ocean. So the swirls of debris and garbage. I saw a documentary on this once. But in the middle of all this is that equanimity, the peace, the still waters, and the monk on the island with the pendulum over his head. I'm getting a very heavy sense in my chest. Heaviness, a sort of a grounding but almost a bit of a nausea. This happened once in a reading. It was about releasing the negative. Let's see where this one goes. Right now it's just a feeling. I'm seeing sort of the whole scene I described before as a freeze frame. Oh, I'm seeing it, the whole scene, as if it was on a big cookie, a very thin wafer type, and being brought into someone's mouth, so being eaten. I couldn't get a sense, although both flashed in my head, of someone just eating and also the host in communion. So that entire scene has been absorbed into this being, this person. Yeah, I'm getting more the communion at church type of feeling. the person, when I first sensed, I will say him, was an adult, but it's switching, or he's switching back and forth from adult to child. So I'm seeing basically the regularity of this child going to church from childhood all the way to adulthood, and now all the way to being a senior citizen. So the repetition of that action of communion. And in the old style way of being, maybe some churches are still doing this, but being kneeling sort of at the front of the church where you kneel to get communion. At the top of the steeple of the church, I'm now seeing again a swinging, it's the grandfather clock. But it's changing from the steeple of a church to, let's say, Parliament Hill, but it also might be the government buildings in England. It's sort of changing forms back and forth, and now I'm seeing the ones in Vienna. But there's always a clock, and there's always a pendulum swinging. So I'm getting a sense of government politics and being returned to the roller coaster. So sometimes my vision is going back and forth in time, but also just they're showing me again glimpses, so trying to make the connection between the roller coaster and the government buildings, the cycles of politics, the cycles of, I'm now seeing the inside of a bank, but, the bags with the dollar signs and the gold coin bars and all that stuff, so just the economy. Money or abundance or economy, politics, the growth of time, and the seasons are being shown back to me. It's like I'm going in fast rewind. Back towards the four scenes on the ocean. And this sense of someone lying on the beach with a very, very big belly and just letting out this giant burp. But this sense of contentment, this sense of indulgence. There's a whole line of little ants crawling towards some of the leftover food in his plate. His fingers are dragging on the earth, and the ants have to go around it in the sand. Getting that sense of, again, that sort of heavy-chested nauseas, and, he lay down too early after eating and not feeling well. And being shown another part of the beach where you've got these, these hard bodies, basically all men and women, absolutely tanned and muscular and bodybuilders. So you've got the absolute overindulgence, overweight person on the lounge chair, and then you've got, these, the other extreme, basically. And in the middle of these is walking a family that you would call average in terms of appearance. But behind them are, I forgot about those. The Gingerbread family is walking behind them, but tick-tocking as they walk, because they stay in they're staying completely solid and just sort of waving from one foot to the other so that they could lift one and go forward. And they're walking behind that family. And now they're growing into the same size as the family, but still, they're not flexing their legs or anything. They're completely still, but tick-tocking The family's turning around, but they don't see them. They're just sitting and playing on the beach, making castles. And one little girl has gone away from her family, not very far, lying on her belly and looking out at the ocean, observing the waves, the tide coming in, or just the ebb and flow of the waves. Her eyes are going towards the heaven, and you can see both the sun and the moon. Oh, and the moon has gone through all its phases. She's still sitting there as day becomes night, night becomes day, including an eclipse, which we're actually going to have. Today's a full moon day that I'm doing this reading. There's also an eclipse happening today. Cycles. This little girl grows into a woman. I'm seeing her around in her late 20s, mid-30s maybe. Turns into a mermaid, goes into the water, starts swimming around the island where the monk is, creating this swirl where all the colors become one, the garbage and the waves, and it all sort of gets sucked in as a vacuum. She's creating this vacuum where everything gets sucked under. It's totally disappeared. It's not just underwater, it's disappeared. And all that is left above is this calmness, with the monk still sitting on the island. Except this time he's got a little bit of a grin on his face. The pendulum over his head is still swinging, and I can still see the brainwave machines, although they're not there. It's just kind of an image of them. Peace, equanimity, through the seasons, through the changes, through the rhythms of life. He's opened his eyes. He's turned around and looked at me and given me this little nod. That's sometimes how my visions end, sort of connection with one of the characters like that. And yeah, he's standing up and brushing himself off, and poof, he's gone. The island's gone. The vision's gone. And that's the end. Wow, lots of wonderful symbolism to work with there, and to ponder on the law of rhythm and how to work with it in life. Thank you very much.